We just met with really the intake team from the area where mail would be received today. I just want to let you know that our office has considered since day one security to be our highest priority. And so we have a different threat vector than we normally would expect. Instead of bad actors, post-election, we have someone that has actually, put into the mail. We know that there's been 4 envelopes received out in Washington State, and there's one headed this way towards Fulton County. And we're really grateful for our partners here at the state level and also federal agencies that have really, come alongside of us and given additional resources. So we also want to make sure that, our workers here in the Fulton County Election Office are safe.
Can you talk about when you got the alert and how you got it and I guess how the alarm went off?
It was really yesterday that we became aware of the situation that there's actually still an envelope that was traveling, in the mail headed towards Fulton County. And so we've been reaching out to the counties. In fact, what we did is we actually put out a notice to all 159 counties. We also then said that we've identified as Fulton County, so the other 158 would not be alarmed by anything like that. But we just wanted to make sure that everyone was, had that awareness and just had their antenna out for anything that looked a little bit different than normal.
What details can you give about the letter itself? Has it been field tested? Do they believe it has fentanyl? Or
it has been tested, and it did have fentanyl in it. And so as it relates to having fentanyl, I just want to really emphasize the seriousness of this. Some people like to call fentanyl a drug, but it's actually poison. It'll kill you. It'll kill you very quickly, very easily, and it's very dangerous. We lost our son 5.5 years ago due to a fentanyl overdose. We know how deadly this stuff is. So this is very, very serious, and we take it that way. So therefore, we're grateful for the partnership that we have with GMA, our state officials, and also what we're seeing with national organizations.
And to clarify real quick, the letters that were tested for fentanyl in Washington, the
State.
ones headed here, still in transit.
It's still in transit. It hasn't arrived yet, so and so they're trying to get that, intercept that before it gets here, and we just don't know where that'll be. But we've put and prepared our people here that could receive that mail on the alert and given them the resources they need with Narcan.
what are those preparations?
Really a training with Narcan, how it would be utilized, and then also making sure that they are equipped with that.
Is there concern more letters are coming our way?
Well, we know that there's right now they've identified a total of 5. 4 were accepted out in Washington State, and 1 is headed towards Fulton County Election Office.
Who is specifically that addressed to?
That was not shared with us.
So we don't know if it's going to come here to the hub. It could come somewhere in Fulton County.
Well, we know that it has this office address, and this is the receiving address for the election office.
Can you talk about this ongoing threat, the ongoing threats against election workers, not just in Fulton County, but all over the state of Georgia? Because that's been a top concern of yours for the past 3 years, since November 2020.
Well, what I would say is anyone that holds election office, or anyone that wants to hold election office coming through post-2024 elections, they're running for high office in this land, they need to condemn this stuff. So when they hear about this, and someone's asked them today, what do you think about this? If they don't condemn this, they're not worthy for the office that they're running for. This is domestic terrorism, and it needs to be condemned by anyone that holds elected office and anyone that wants to hold elected office anywhere in America.
We don't have a motive yet behind this.
No, but we know we're going to deal with the situation, and we'll move on from that. And then obviously there'll be further investigations, which obviously will have federal oversight because it's a federal offense running things across the mail.
And can you talk about you prioritizing the safety of these election workers?
Absolutely. In fact, it really just starts to having a safe, secure facility. And I want to give a shout out to so many, Fulton County's done a tremendous job, made major investments here in this new facility. And so I want to just give a salute to the county commissioners because they have to authorize the funding for these expenses. But also, I've traveled throughout the state. We're doing health checks for all 159 counties. We've done over 80 now, and we're working on getting all those other balance of those done by the end of the year. 159 counties, it does take a while to verifying that the machines are accurate, nothing's been tampered with, but also looking at the security of the buildings. But what I did notice, for example, when I was in Murray County or Gordon County, new facilities or updated facilities, taking an old building but totally renovating it. Then you go down to Macon-Bibb County and look at what they've done there. They're in the Macon Mall now. They have law enforcement at one section, a beautiful layout, with their election office. And so it's really the county commissioner saying, we understand how important elections are, and we're going to invest in our election infrastructure. And also then the election workers are saying they understand how important elections are, and I think it's really a very positive thing. And obviously with what we're seeing right now with the officials that we have, not just our statewide officials in our office saying we're standing beside you, behind you, to protect our election workers, but we also have our national stakeholders in this also coming alongside of us. So I think that's really positive. And we also know that we want to encourage everyone to volunteer to be a poll worker. And we understand that there's going to be these threats from all different areas, but we want to make sure that people understand that election security is our highest priority.
What's the timeline moving forward? You said this letter is still in transit, but you all do know that there is fentanyl?
Well, we don't know what's in it. We just have to assume the worst and be prepared for that. And so, whatever the mail service takes, how many days it takes to travel across the country, and that will be what it is. But I want to thank you all for being here today. What we're going to do is we're actually going to get a chat, unless Lady has one last question.
How are they able to verify the connection between the letters in Washington State and this letter?
They have that through postmarks and things like that. So thank you so much for coming today. Get the message out that I guess the serious threat nature of this, and I would tell everyone in America, we all can do better. These are your fellow Americans that are working hard to make sure and bring to you safe, secure, accurate, and fair elections for everyone. Thank you for coming. Take care.